recorded. So if there's someone you'd like to share it with, we can. The recording will be posted on our website, or you can just send me an email. I'll be happy to send you the link. Near the end of the session, I'll post a QR code for a feedback survey. This will also be posted on our website. We're very keen to get your feedback on this session, as well as suggestions for future topics. Our speaker has prepared a presentation that will take us till about 12:45 or 1:15 in Newfoundland and Labrador, and we'll have about 15 minutes at the end for Q&A. Please remember to mute your microphones, and I'll be keeping an eye on the chat, so just send me a message if you have any questions. I'll now welcome our special guest from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada, Desiree Naylor. She's the Community Services Lead for Alberta and the Pediatric Portfolio Lead for all of LLSC. There's currently a vacancy in the position of the Community Services Lead for Atlantic Provinces, which is being covered. However, as the lead for LLSC's pediatric initiatives, Desiree is the perfect speaker for today's session. Desiree has been with the LLSC for over 4 years, supporting those who have been diagnosed with a blood cancer, as well as their caregivers and their personal support networks. She connects them with LLSC's services and programs, as well as local community supports and resources. When not at work, Desiree is the proud mom of 2 teenagers who think they know everything. With their pets added to the scene, she declares their home to be a zoo. When she's not being a zookeeper, referee, or chauffeur, which many of you may be familiar with, she's diving into the pages of her next literary obsession. She says, and I quote because it may help you today, "Parenting is hard, but with a good sense of humor and a great book, I'm making it through." So welcome to Desiree.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for having me today. As mentioned, my name is Desiree, and I'm just one of the community service leads here at the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada. And as mentioned, I'm the lead for our pediatric portfolio as it relates to our community services, programs, and resources. Today, I want to highlight some of these programs and resources for you that we offer to the pediatric blood cancer community. So these will include support for families and tools for healthcare professionals who care for them. I did want to mention that we do have other resources for caregivers, adult patients, and even for those who've lost a loved one to blood cancer. So if I do touch on a resource today and you have questions around if we have an equivalent for adults, please flag that and I can answer that at the end of the presentation or send you more information a little bit later. So here's just a quick overview of some of the topics I'm going to cover in today's presentation. And then after today's presentation, I'll send Joanne an email with information on how to find all of the resources that I share about. So don't worry about writing down links or anything like that. I'll also try and post some items in the chat box there after as well. So a little bit about the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada. Our name is a little bit deceiving as we do serve all 137 blood cancers. But for the purpose of today's presentation, we are here to serve families with children and adolescents who have been diagnosed with a blood cancer. And we do collaborate with other cancer agencies. We really work hard so that we don't duplicate our services, and we are constantly seeking feedback to understand gaps so that we can continue to help support. We focus on a range of initiatives from delivering practical support to the community, funding important research, and we are really this last year focusing so much more on advocating for fair and equitable treatment. And we also provide educational resources tailored to healthcare professionals and young patients. So we're going to start with the resources for HCPs. And really what we say is we want to partner with you and offer services to complement your work to optimize the experience of children, families that have been touched by a blood cancer. So the first set that we're going to look at for resources are available to you that work directly to those in the pediatric blood cancer landscape. The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society offers what we call a continuing education platform where healthcare professionals can register to one or more free trainings, and you can do them at your own pace on your own time. And after completing a module, you will receive an electronic certificate of participation. All of the trainings are offered by experts, and there are 60 trainings available in both English and French. We have more than 750 HCPs that are using the platform, and we have trainings for nurses, for community pharmacists. That one's on, I think, oral treatments. We have trainings for social workers and GPs. Some of the topics covered in The trainings for pediatric include physical activities for children and youth, survivorship issues for adolescent and young adults, and CAR T therapy. And we are trying to add trainings regularly to this platform. And you can order material to refer your patients and their families to our services easily. We have a tear pad and a palm card that helps refer to our community service teams, as well as a palm card referring them to our First Connection peer support program. You can order the referring material as well as our materials, our educational materials, to help educate families right from our website. The process is simple and it is free. All of our material is vetted by experts and it's updated regularly. It's specific for the children, adolescents, and families that support them. On the healthcare professional page, you can find a lot of information, including this material order form. So it's really quick and easy to do. With the form, you can order materials to be shipped directly to your center, your department. You can even order them to be sent directly to a family's house if you have the ability to do that. And then, of course, if you have any questions about which resources to add, we say never hesitate to reach out. We'll make suggestions for you. So these are some of our current educational material for pediatric families. One is preparing for back to school, an activity book to learn about leukemia and stories. There's also tools for teachers supporting children and adolescents returning to school after treatment. So the Zoe one and the one with the superhero Spider Mabel, they are all Canadian families that have shared their stories. So Spider Mabel versus leukemia booklet features a young girl from Alberta, and the Zoe and leukemia one features a family from Quebec. So I'm going to pause for a minute just as we're going to pivot to talk about resources for families. And we'll get started into the other part. We know that a blood cancer experience is unique to every child, every adolescent, and their family. So we are constantly adapting to the most urgent needs of the blood cancer community, and we're still filling gaps identified in our last national market research. One of the gaps that we're currently working on, and you'll see a lot more throughout the presentation, is providing emotional and psychological support for the whole family, including the child, their parent, and siblings, because a pediatric cancer diagnosis impacts the whole family. In order to best support children, youth, and their families, we've also created a pediatric advisory committee to ensure that the experience of children and families affected by blood cancer is reflected in all of our materials, our programs, and our services. We have parents as well as survivors on this pediatric advisory committee from across Canada. I believe we have 3 from the Atlantic region that join us, and they share their experiences. And so what we do is we really present to them resources that we have in mind that we want to make, and we say, like, what are your thoughts on this? What is a good time to present this to the families? Is this something that would be useful? And this past year, we really focused on mental health and wellness. And then during the month of May, aligning with Mental Health Awareness Month, we started putting out some of these new resources that highlight the impact a pediatric blood cancer diagnosis can have on a parent's mental health, and highlight the impact that a cancer diagnosis can have on the whole family. So some of the resources that we just made include podcasts, animated videos, fact sheets, and so much more. So we really wanted to tackle the tough topic of mental health issues that caregivers can encounter. We talk about the importance of early recognition and intervention, recognizing mental health issues in younger children, and most importantly, really helping the caregivers, parents, understand that they're not alone as they hear from other caregivers whose child was diagnosed with a pediatric blood cancer and what they've gone through. So from our markets research and our advisory committee, we've built what we call a service offering that really reflects the information that we were hearing. We want to support the families in many different ways, and we know how overwhelming it is. So we kind of want to start overcoming one challenge at a time for them. So you'll see our service offerings there on the screen, and we've put them into 4 pillars, and I'll review the pillars kind of in short over the next couple slides. But really, we're talking about helping navigate the blood cancer experience, providing targeted blood cancer information, providing the psychosocial and emotional support, and providing practical support and advocating for patients' rights. So the parents or caregivers that you support, they're faced with challenges, for example, understanding complex information and coming to terms with a diagnosis, or deciding how to talk to their child about cancer and when to include them in decisions. So when we're talking about navigating the blood cancer experience, we try to do this in 3 different ways. So number one, we're talking about our health manager app. And this app is free. It's available in French and English, and it can help parents to get organized with areas like tracking hydration or medication side effects for their child. With clinical trial coordination, our counterpart in the US, they have a clinical trial navigation service that we can refer Canadian families to. It's a unique resource that HCPs can recommend to parents that will really help them understand the clinical trial process and what is available to them. And as an HCP, you can also call to see what clinical trials are available for you. Sorry, my slides are frozen. Oh, there we go. Sorry. And personalized support is a huge aspect of my role as a community service lead. So we really support anyone that's impacted by a blood cancer diagnosis and help provide resources and help them, learn a little bit more about the healthcare system, learn about their diagnosis. When they call us, we kind of say we want to take one thing off of the plate for them. Where can we start? So that's a little bit more about the personalized support. We never give medical advice. I don't have a medical background, so I can never do that. But really, we're going to help them find answers, make referrals, make sure that they're connecting with their healthcare team at the hospital. We do have the ability to make a 3-way call in 170 languages, so that's always really important as well. So the next pillar is providing easy to understand information. So this quote is from a parent who was looking for information, and she said, "I wanted some information, but I found it overwhelming. It was a lot of information. I was still in shock and needed it in digestible pieces. As I progressed through, I was able to absorb more information." And so that is another huge part of what we do. We're here at every step, but really we want to provide educational material by age group to help inform and support, but not overwhelm. So all of our resources, when we're sending them out, we'll make sure that they've been, whether they're our resources or other resources, they're medically reviewed, they're expert reviewed, and only a couple at a time. And then when we are sending our information, again, they are written in easy to understand language. They are vetted by experts. And we just want to make sure that we potentially can, if we have the ability, to also provide them in multi formats. So where someone can choose to learn more about, their child's diagnosis by watching a webcast, reading a fact sheet, or listening to a podcast. So a little bit about our website. If you haven't been on there recently, we changed it. Our website, bloodcancers.ca, was launched in November 2021. And really the goal of the new website was to better serve the community and provide a better online experience. So when we launched the website, we introduced a new handful of sections, including a section specific to pediatric blood cancers. And on this section, families can find that educational material, inspirational stories, the podcast, physical activity guidelines to promote active, safe, and adapted lifestyle during treatment. And everything is kind of tailored to that section. And of course, we have resources for families that have an adolescent or teen diagnosed with a blood cancer. So I really do invite you to read the stories from our pediatric families on the website. You'll probably see somebody on there that you may know or have worked with in the past. We also have a collective blog for adolescents on their section. And on that, they can read stories about things that are important to them, like intimacy and sexual health, school, relationship, body images. And then again, because we knew that some people have a harder time reading and it can be just a little bit more difficult for them. Maybe it's because they don't have time to access the resources or because their treatment impacted their ability to concentrate. So our blood cancer community asked us to develop some podcasts, and we did. With our podcast, you can register and be notified when a new one is posted. So the ones on the screen are ones that are related more to adolescent and young adult. And then here is the sampling of podcasts that touch on pediatric blood cancer. So a whole variety of ones that are up there. And like I said, we are trying to add new ones all the time. But I did want to highlight the podcast with Alyssa. So Alyssa was 11 years old when she was diagnosed with acute myeloid leukemia, or AML. In her podcast episode, Alyssa shares her experience with a pediatric blood cancer and how the support of her family and friends helped her overcome challenges of integrating back into normal life after treatment. But I think what makes this podcast probably one of my favorite ones is that our host, Montana, was also diagnosed with a pediatric blood cancer. And so between the two of them, the podcast is just so inspiring. And then also important to note, one of the things that we learned from our pediatric advisory committee is that any of the podcasts for parents needed to be short, so that they could listen to them when their child is maybe in treatment or getting a test done. So that was a huge thing for us to make sure that our pediatric podcasts were under 30 minutes. And then we did work with a kinesiologist who was specialized in pediatric cancer to create these physical activity guidelines. And it really promotes an active, safe, and adapted lifestyle during treatment, including well-being in patients. So the guidelines are separated by years, so 0 to 4, 5 to 11, and 12 to 17. And there's also a guide for physical education teachers and one for life after cancer. These resources can be ordered using the online form. So just some great ideas in there for anyone, like parents can read them and kind of help their child as well. And then another free app that we have is a coloring app, which allows children to express creativity and also offers activities to help them learn about their blood cancer and its treatment. So the next pillar is that one that we've really prioritized for this year, and that's the emotional and practical support. If we have time, I'm going to play the two videos on the right-hand side there, but the pediatric blood cancer diagnosis impacts the whole family, and we recognize this deeply. So that's why we've developed new mental health resources available in multimedia formats. These resources were designed to increase mental health awareness, particularly for parents of children with a pediatric blood cancer. So the resources includes a new podcast from a mom who shares about mental health issues that she faced after her young daughter was diagnosed with leukemia, just as she was coming back from mat leave to her job. Podcasts like this, again, help the caregivers understand that they're not alone. We have a new fact sheet for parents to access their mental health, especially, kind of figuring out that, you know, yes, everything is happening to their child, but they also need to take care of themselves. I think one of our marketing was related to, when you're on the airplane and you need to put your own mask on before you put your child's on. So kind of looking at those pieces of it. And then our two new animated videos. One video highlights the impact a pediatric blood cancer diagnosis can have on a parent's mental health. And then the second video is from a father's viewpoint, highlighting the impact a cancer diagnosis can have on the whole family. And with both of those videos, they were two parents that shared their stories with us. So it's their words in the videos. We just had the opportunity to make them into animated videos and put their stories out there for them. And then our First Connection program is probably one of my favorite programs that we offer. And it's an opportunity for caregivers to speak to another caregiver or with a young adult survivor to really hear about their experience or to ask questions. It's a phone call, and you could be speaking to somebody in another province during the phone call, but our program coordinator, she wants to make the best matches possible. And so when they're speaking with the program user, the caregiver, they're saying, like, what is is it that you want to learn more about? Is it the diagnosis? Is it about treatment options? Is it about, inspiring kind of like health and wellness and moving forward? She's going to make a match based off of what is that need in that moment for the caregiver. And we've learned that the benefits to using a peer support program like our First Connection program could include that emotional support where the caregivers feel connected and understood. Practical tips where caregivers can hear from others about things like, coping, what to carry in a bag to the hospital, how to keep their child busy while inpatient. And to note, all of our volunteers are trained and monitored. So again, just highlighting the community service role again. We know that many parents will refrain from sharing with their family. Not only do we help with healthcare navigation or connecting with the community, but we're also going to provide a safe space to fully share those challenges that they may be going through. Um, a lot of times our conversation is, have you connected with the social worker at the hospital? That's usually one of the first things that we say to make sure that they're connecting that way, but then helping with any other challenges that they're going through. And if a family is on a waiting list to see a nutritionist, we can connect them to a nutrition expert for a consultation meanwhile. And then we'll talk a little bit about advocating for equitable access to treatment and care. So we know there's a lot of innovative treatment for blood cancers, and we just need to make sure that children and adolescents have access to them in a timely manner. So parents of the children and teenagers that are connecting with us, HCPs are connecting with us because they want to make sure that their child is getting the right treatment and in the right time frame. So they'll reach out to us and we'll say, yeah, absolutely, your oncologist is making the best decision for you. You can look into clinical trials. We can help with that. But if you have questions about, you live in a certain province and you need to get, let's say, CAR T therapy in another province, let's walk you through that. Let's talk about, helping you through that piece as well. So if you are connecting with a family and you hear that they have challenges to accessing medication or treatment, or challenges with accessing specific services in the community, we do ask that you connect with us. We do have an advocacy team that we work with that will support all of this. Currently, right now, they're working on a travel to treatment paper to see, why do some families have to travel so far away for treatment and what can we do for that? How can we break down some of those barriers? Um, yeah, we just really want to empower the families that are affected by blood cancers to be effective in be self advocates as well. And then we know that with system advocacy, we are stronger together. So if you see it as being like a larger issue, something that might be Canadian wide, or something that we can help support, let us know. And I'll give you an example of this. Here where I am located, we were having a really hard time with CAR T therapy access right before COVID happened. So obviously COVID was impacting that piece. But also they were just having a really hard time getting some of our patients into CAR T across Canada or into the States. So we had some oncologists reach out to us and say, like, help, what can you do? We helped write letters. We helped, do some mail outs, kind of anything we could think of to help with them. And we were able to help bring CAR T therapy here to Alberta. So the other piece that is huge for us is investing in pediatric blood cancer research. From the beginning, we've funded blood cancer research because we believe that research holds the key to saving lives. And we have seen how science has uncovered important clues over the course of decades, but only 5% of oncology drugs had an initial pediatric recommendation in 40 years. Because it's not possible for us to fund all blood cancer research projects, we put a great deal of effort into choosing which ones to support. And funding research is not an option, it's a necessity. And it's an urgent one. So we did put together the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada's Pediatric Blood Cancer Research Innovative Grant Competition. And this grant was designed to challenge the current pediatric blood cancer landscape by providing funding for projects that address unmet needs for pediatric blood cancers. So a specific grant for them. And Canadian researchers are invited to submit proposals to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada's Pediatric Blood Cancer Research Grant. So this grant, again, was to make sure that we were funding projects that address pediatric ones. And we also know that in the current era of targeted and immunotherapy drugs being developed in adults, very few successful examples have been translated to the childhood blood cancer treatment. And clear advances have occurred, but the cure rates remain low for certain blood cancer types, and along with the long-term and late-term effects that happen. So for the benefit of children, we wanted to have a better understanding of tumor biology, and further progress in drug development and treatment are needed. So a little bit about PEDAL. I'm not sure if you've heard about it. It is kind of I was going to say under wraps right now, or kind of progressing behind the scenes, but this here is a little bit about it. So PEDAL is about matching the right child to the right trial at the right time. And Canada is one of the first countries to join this global trial. PEDAL is one of the first of its kind in the world to focus on a master trial for pediatric blood cancer patients. And it looks inside the cells of someone's cancer at the cancer DNA. And then with this information, we're able to find trials that would target the individual cancer profile of this young patient. And it's really, again, that personalized approach. There's a note in here if you have questions. I can't answer them specifically on PEDAL, but I can put you in contact with our staff member who's been like a huge part of it, working with the states and some of the other global organizations to really bring PEDAL here to Canada. I kind of just want to end. I was going to say I am flying through the slides. Sorry. To end, I encourage you to check out our continuing education platform. There's so many great presentations on there. You can share the resources amongst yourself. You can share them with colleagues that you think would benefit from watching them. But if you get on there and you see something that is a gap, or you want to do a personalized training like this, happy to do so. I know earlier this year, or the end of last year, they did a CAR T therapy in the Atlantic region, so specific to that area. We are doing some Indigenous health trainings in the next little bit, as well as throughout, I think, another one later this year. So yeah, let us know if you see a gap. We love working to make the webcasts available, but we also want to make sure that we're filling the gaps for you. And if there's something that you think families would enjoy, you can let us know and we'll see if we can do a webcast on that as well. But of course, please reach out to the LSC if you have a patient or family who needs additional support. We're always happy to find additional resources to help support them. We know a lot of times financial assistance is a big one, so we'll see if we have other resources that we can connect them with, and just make sure that they're, again, not going through this feeling like they're going through it alone. And then I have added my contact information here on the slide. So if you have any questions about any of the resources I shared about today, please don't hesitate to reach out. I have time. I'm going to share 2 videos, but I did want to say a special thank you to Joanne for helping to set up so that I could share with you today. I'm going to stop sharing just for a second on that, and I'll get the videos up. Okay, I have to make sure I do it with the sound. So this first video was one that we just made, and it's a mother story of how she had to seek mental health support. Sound is on.
When our 7-year-old daughter was diagnosed with blood cancer, my world turned upside down. I had so many questions. Why was this happening? What did I do wrong? Already juggling work and
The sound went, Desiree.
Desiree, could you try sharing again?
Here,
Sorry.
while
Thank
she's
you.
Ooh. Yeah, was the sound off?
It was
Okay.
on in the beginning, sorry, but then it went out. Thank
Okay,
you.
perfect.
I think it's because you muted yourself.
I
Yeah.
realized that afterwards. Sorry. Okay,
you.
let's play it from the beginning.
We're not seeing your screen being shared now. I think
Oh,
it's probably playing on your side. And actually, it was my fault. I heard you moving around in the background, so I
is
muted your
challenging
mic,
and
but it
isolating,
muted
Oh.
everything.
and that can have
So
an impact on
sorry.
mental health. I knew it was time to get help when I started crying in our driveway at home. I was angry because I was here while she stayed at the hospital. I made an appointment with the social worker's office, who helped me realize that taking care of my mental health was important and would give me the emotional strength to face the challenges ahead. We came up with small but necessary ways to take care of myself while being there for my daughter, like listening to podcasts during procedures, grabbing snacks when they were preparing her for a test, and having her dad come to the hospital for a daddy-daughter activity so I could go home to shower or spend time with our son. I realize how strong she has been. Her courage has fueled our own. Looking back, I wish I'd asked for help earlier, from professionals, friends, and family. It's tough to talk about mental health, but we're not alone, and talking to someone that has been through it helped me a lot. The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada is here to help.
Okay, sorry about all of the technology issues on that one there. I'm gonna share this one. The sound should work for it because I haven't muted myself and we're still sharing.
The words no parent ever wants to hear. Your child has cancer. It's at that moment that our family hit its worst moment. We struggled to cope with the news of our son's diagnosis. Every trip to the hospital, each round of treatment became a roller coaster of hope and fear. And it was hard on our marriage. Our son started having emotional outbursts. It was understandable. In a matter of moments, he lost control over his world. He was undergoing uncomfortable tests and procedures and wasn't able to see all his favorite people at home. But his sisters, we thought they were doing okay. We didn't notice that they were shouldering a heavy burden too. In those months, they matured beyond their years, witnessing their brother's pain and struggling to understand why we were missing their important moments. We couldn't ignore the fact that pediatric cancer had a significant impact on our entire family. It became clear to both my wife and me that we needed to lean on each other for the well-being of our family. We reached out to our son's healthcare teams to find support for each member of the family, including sibling resources. We learned how to talk about cancer with our children and match their level of understanding. We built our community of other oncology families who understood what we were going through. The Leukemia and Lymphoma Society of Canada is here to help.
Thank you so much, Desiree. That's been, as a newcomer to the community myself, it was an overwhelming amount of information, but also very accessible to someone who's a layperson. I know that there's already been a question in our chat looking for links to resources. Specifically, we were looking for the resources on the exercise info pages that were shared, but I know you'll follow up with them here, and then I'll also post them on the AFON website under our education tab. Um, we do have a bit of time now, which is excellent for questions. Before we get into them, I just shared quickly in the chat there a QR code for feedback for today's session in case anyone ends up ducking out early. We're really keen to get feedback from everyone because we want to know how things were today and also what other topics would be helpful for you. That's what we do at AFON. So let us know how we can do it better. So there's already some links there. And if we could take some questions now, if you just want to unmute and ask, or you can raise your hand if you know where to find that feature, and I'll keep an eye on everyone and unmute you if you need help with that. But happy to take any questions now.
I'm gonna say I'll just keep putting links in there.
Yeah. And you'll send these to me too. I think after the meeting's over, the chat's here, but I don't know how long it sticks around. So. I don't see any hands being raised. Oh, that's me. Anyone have any questions or any
I
even
have.
comments? Go ahead.
Hi there, Desiree. My name's April. I'm one of the oncology family care coordinators here at the IWK. I do have one quick question. Your educational topics, they're great. I think they're a great resource. They're really helpful. I was wondering, how do you come up with those topics? Do you get feedback from patients and families?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Oh, sorry. Like which topics for our like continuing education platform?
Yes.
Yeah. So we do kind of a couple of things. Right now we're doing our operational planning. And because I'm looking at pediatric, I connect with one of our staff members and I say, I want 5 pediatric specific trainings by experts, and I want to do one that would be specific for parents. And then we kind of start with that and looking into our experts to see who would be a good fit. So one of the ones that we have coming up is CAR T across the pediatric landscape. So that will be what we're doing for this upcoming year. And then we look to see if there's like any innovative ideas that we want to touch on. So we just did the gut health presentation. And then each of our staff try and decide, like, do they have experts that they want to connect with and bring forward? So the Indigenous health one was, we had a great expert that reached out to us and said, like, hey, I would love to do a presentation for you guys. And here's kind of what we're doing. And then all of our, we do 2 conferences typically kind of, I say through the year, but we do a leukemia conference and then we do the living well with a blood cancer. So the leukemia conferences is just typically who has a great expert that we haven't worked with before, and could they come and do a presentation. And then the living well, we just think about, yeah, topics that we've heard from other people that they would like to learn more about, whether it's the spirituality or it's the brain fog and fatigue. What are those pieces that we see regularly coming up and how can we fill that, like that gap again on that? So it's a team endeavor for all of that. But again, like if there's something that you think we're missing, we love hearing from our HCP saying like, hey, we suggest you do this, and here's why, or if you want something specific to your hospital or the Atlantic region, we do that as well.
No, that's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, like I said, all these resources are really, really wonderful for patients and families. So we appreciate all that you do. Do you mind if I ask one follow-up question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Um, so about the parent or patient support groups, can you tell us a little bit more about those?
Yeah. So we have right now the First Connection peer support, and it's just a phone call. So that's the biggest one that we do offer for pediatric families, and that's where the caregiver can call in and speak to another caregiver or I guess, adult survivor who had been diagnosed with a pediatric cancer. And it's an opportunity for them to be on the phone and kind of ask questions or hear about their experience. The hour has been set aside for them. Typically, the parent is looking for, how did they get through a treatment? The volunteer will not make the treatment decision for them, but they'll just share their own experience on it. And that one is again, it's like my favorite program. And the reason is because I could tell you what a stem cell transplant is. You guys could tell them what to expect in a stem cell transplant, but once you hear about somebody who's gone through it, it's a whole different, learning for them. So that one, that's a great kind of peer support. We do not have support groups for parents, and the reason for that is because good luck trying to connect parents together when they have, kids in other programs. Their child might be in the hospital, might not be, schools and everything like that. So our advisory committee suggested not to do at this time. any sort of support groups like that. We have talked about in the past of doing perhaps like a Facebook group for them, and then they can ask questions that way. We do find a lot of times the hospitals might have something similar, so we didn't want to duplicate that for them. But we do have support groups, and it's through the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society that are typically more like adult survivors. There's some regional ones, and then there are chronic. There's a chronic leukemia one. So in the Atlantic, they would join the Eastern Canada group if they have like an acute cancer. But if they have a chronic cancer, we have a national one for them, and then a Facebook group for them as well. So lots of opportunities. We're still trying to learn how to provide more resources for parents, but again, it's hard because scheduling is difficult for parents.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, one of the common things that we hear from parents is that they often do feel alone, and both during on therapy and in follow-up care, and looking to connect with other families. So I think if that was something in the future that you guys ever offered, I think that would be amazing for sure.
Yeah, we've talked about doing almost like a coffee chat, and saying like we can't look at timing per se, but it seems like 4 o'clock my time in Alberta. 4 o'clock might be a good time because it's still early enough for families in the Atlantic region because it's 7, and it's not too early for families in BC at 3. Or if we look at doing kind of breaking it up in an Eastern Western Canada. But I have heard about families who they some types of blood cancers are so rare, like Burkitt's lymphoma, that when you are speaking with other families, you're actually speaking like internationally with families not close by at all. So how do you connect with those families um, without doing your own research? So yeah, it's an idea that we're coming up with, trying to figure out how to fill the gap and make it worthwhile for all families to access and easy to find. That's the big thing as well, right? Like they're not having to search out all of this information or all of these groups. There's something that's presented to them and they can join easily when it matters the most to them.
Well, that sounds incredible. Thanks for everything that you guys do. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great questions, April. Thank you so much for pulling all that out. It's like you're a wealth of information, Desiree. Is there anyone else who can pull it? The other thing I'll mention while we're waiting for a hand to raise or someone to unmute is that it seems like there's endless resources, but you might not even find them on the website. So the best thing would be just to reach out to the community services lead, so you or whoever takes over for Atlantic provinces, and just always check in because there could be new things developing all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, so if you are interested, you can send me an email. If you're not on our email list in our database, I promise not to spam you. But we do send out to the HCPs. They have like their own list that we will send off information of any new continuing education platform, resources that are coming out, including the Indigenous Health one coming up on May 30th. And if there's any I was going to say like conferences coming up in your area like that we're putting on, you would hear about it as well. So if you want to be part of that email list, you can send me an email and I'll start adding you into the database. And again, I promise not to spam you. And then our caregivers as well, like we do send them when we do get some new resources, we'll send them information on that as well. And then finding it, exactly that. Like if you're looking for a resource, don't spend a lot of time looking for it. We hope it's in the right spot and we hope it's easy to find, but just send a message to the community service lead. So right now, like Joanne said, we are hiring for that position. So you can reach out to me or you can reach out to I think Natasha Sani, if you've been in contact with her, or with Pascal, who's covering for that region as well. So any of the three of us would be happy to share resources with you, happy to send you booklets, whatever it is that you need. We're here for you.
Wonderful. Any other questions or even stuff to share, ideas or comments from the session, feedback? Okay, well, how about we wrap things up? And I'd just like to really thank Desiree for all the information and time and commitment put into preparing such a thorough presentation for us. And I'll make another reminder to the feedback survey QR code you can see in the chat there, as well as I've posted Desiree's email address. And of course, you can always reach out to us at AFON and we can connect you or whatever you need. So thanks everyone for being here, and maybe take the last few minutes of this hour and just fill out the survey. It's like just a few questions. It'll take you a minute or two. Okay, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll just stay here in case anyone has any follow-up questions, but have a wonderful afternoon.
Perfect. And yeah, Joanne, I'll send you just like a document kind of with a couple of the links on there, and I'll highlight kind of what you'll find in those little sections there. And then I'll put the exercise guides on there. They are a little bit hidden because they're across a couple
Perfect.
pages. But yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad Ruth asked for them then.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Perfect. Okay, well, I will let you go and I'll put that together. But thank you again, Joanne, for setting this up.
You're so welcome. Have a good afternoon. Well, good morning, I guess.
Good morning. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you later. Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.
Okay, bye.